Another edition of Pittsburgh Sportsline in the BPTV studios. We're live. I'm Al Levine, the talking machine. Chip Hayner's next to me, and Smoking Jim Frazier. Got a lot of sports for you tonight. Thanks for watching us on Comcast 7, only in Bethel Park. And Tuesday through Saturday night, we're on every 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, Tuesday through Saturday night. Also on Verizon 32 in Bethel Park, and then all the way from Nemacolin to Cranberry, Wexford. Thanks for all the great feedback, and thanks for watching our shows and liking our page. We sunk down a little bit. We're at 3,964 likes, so we're right around that 4,000 likes. We appreciate that. Lost a few people, I guess, so we'll just keep working at it to come back from that. So
must have been hacked.
I don't know about this hacking and stuff. I know that's what it says on the smartphone, so we got that. Well, we start our show off with What's on Your Mind. So I'm going to get to it right now with Smoking Jim Frazier. What's on your mind, Smoking? Oh, 1 second. First, I want to thank Olive Oil's Pizzeria for the pizza and hoagie. 412-831-1900. Call and talk to Zach and Jay there. They'll order up a pizza and go pick it up right at the Hillcrest Shopping Center. You can go right in there, so check that out. And we're going to start with Smoking Jim Frazier on What's on Your Mind, Smoking Jim Frazier.
Thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine. And if you want the green, you got the C, Levine. I redeemed myself. Chicago Bears knocked off Minnesota for me last night. I appreciate that in the Windy City. But what's on my mind is the Pittsburgh Sportsline Team of the Week. And I got some honorable mentions this week. Central Catholic 42-13 over Penn Hills. I'll say that again. Central Catholic 42-13 over Penn Hills. That's an honorable mention for me. They knocked Penn Hills out of the playoff. Penn Hill season's over. Penn Trafford 20-10 over McKeesport. I'll repeat that. Penn Trafford 20-10 over overrated McKeesport.
Who did McKeesport beat the previous week?
I'm not sure who they played. I'm not sure. I can't remember who I had for breakfast.
I thought it was something close to Penn Hills.
I'm not sure who I had for breakfast this morning.
You are a happy man. It's nice to see you so happy with teams that you dislike losing.
But the Pittsburgh Sportsline Team of the Week, unfortunately, the Pittsburgh Sportsline Karma did not work so well for Westinghouse. Westinghouse was down 17-0 in the playoff game against Brashear before they decided to battle back like true Bulldogs, and they tied the score, winning the double overtime. But being that Brashear is the only team in the City League with a kicker, they were able to kick a field goal to win 23-20 over Westinghouse and knock the Bulldogs out of the playoff. City League Championship is this weekend. Pittsburgh Sportsline Player of the Week, honorable mention, goes to, and I won't be talking to him this week. We usually talk a little bit each week. Will not answer his phone calls this week. But Zane the Train Dudek rushed for 242 yards, 3 touchdowns. He has 2,940 yards on his record-breaking regular season in only 10 games. And Armstrong won 38-6 over Kiski. Honorable mention, Player of the Week, goes to Alex Smith, Keystone Oaks, 407 yards passing, 5 TDs, and Keystone Oaks 42-7 victory over their rival,
my
Seton
alma mater.
LaSalle, and that's Al Levine, the talking machines alma mater. We'll be talking about Keystone Oaks a little bit later. Man, there sure is a lot of white guys on this list, Chip. And the Player of the Week goes to none other than white running back, AWB, average white running back, David Harvey, 207 yards, 5 touchdowns for Mount Lebanon. Harvey is on fire, ran for over 200 yards in 3 out of the last 4 games, including 200 yards against Penn Hills the previous week. He also picked up a fumble and raised 61 yards for a touchdown in Mount Lebanon's 35-14 victory over Bethel Park. And that's the Pittsburgh Sports Line Player of the Week. David Harvey, outstanding white running back.
Well,
Smoking Jim, you brought the race card up early, and it often.
You could just say that he was an outstanding running back. And I think that would have summed it up nicely.
Now I got to put AWB. I got AWB in my mind. Thanks, Smoking Jim. I appreciate it. And it's great to hear those honorable mentions and the player of the week and the team of the week and everything else. All right, let's go to Chip Hayner. What's on your mind, Chip?
Thank you, everybody, and good evening. And the first thing that's on my mind is I noticed that there's a similarity with an elephant's offspring and Cam Newton. The two biggest crybabies in the world. Baby elephants weigh 250 pounds. And Cam Newton is crying up a storm. And the burden, the cross he has to bear, no man has had to bear a burden like he did. And I'm just, I like what what Ben Roethlisberger said on his interview this morning on the Fan, and he said, "Welcome to the club." Here's a guy for 12 years who's gotten beaten silly, never got a call yet, and he doesn't cry, he doesn't complain, plays hurt. Cam's just not having fun. Well, you know what? Take your toys and go home, you baby. All right, that's all I got to say about him.
Oh.
But what's on my mind is, I got a little bit of Pirates on my mind. I always have Pirates on my mind. But, I was listening to some of the moves the Pirates made last week. And they made some moves that, to me, make sense. And I will kind of go into a brief description of why I think they make sense. The offseason really hasn't started yet, and I do believe there are trades in the Pirates' future. I believe they need to trade to be able to get some starting pitching to supplement what they have to go into next season. But one of the big moves that they've made so far is they reassigned Nick Leyva, who was the first base coach, and they gave the outright dismissal ticket to Rick Sofield, who was the third base coach, but also he had the responsibility as the outfielders coach. Now, I think that there's two reasons why I believe that he lost his job. First, he was a lousy third base coach. That's one. Secondly, at the start of the year, there was a lot of talk about the Pirates potentially having one of the best outfields in baseball. They were talking about the two best outfields in the National League. They were talking about the Miami Marlins. They were talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I think, you look back at the season, and now that you've gotten the emotion away from it, you look back objectively, and yes, the Pirates did have shortcomings in their starting pitching. It was an abysmal failure. But I also believe that the play of our outfield was just almost as atrocious. And if you looked at the caliber of the players and what we were expecting of them, you have a previous Gold Glove winner, Andrew McCutchen, in center field. You've got the reigning Gold Glove winner in left field, Starling Marte, and he's a finalist for the Gold Glove this year because he led the league in assists by outfielders with 17, and that's without playing the last month of the season. So, Starling Marte, played well, but I think that the outfield could have played considerably better. Too many balls hit the turf, not enough runners were thrown out. Gregory Polanco, I think he was a bit of a disappointment in the outfield this year, but he's a young player and he's learning how to play the game. So now we've hired a new third base coach, and he was the manager for the Altoona Curve. And so he's had some experience at the major league level, and I believe he's going to be working with the outfielders. And I think it's at this point that, provided that the same three outfielders we finished the season with, we start the season with next year, which is what my wish is. I would still love to see Andrew McCutchen suiting up for the Pirates. I think it's on the Pirates outfield for them to perform now. It's no longer on the coaches. You can't blame where you're being positioned or not, or having a disagreement with your position coach. You're bringing in somebody new, and now it's up to these guys to start playing up to their potential. The days of they have great potential are over. You're all getting well paid, and it's time for you guys to start earning your pay. So that's what I'm predicting this year. I'm predicting a huge impact on the Pirates outfield. And just think, as bad as the pitching was last year, if we would have had better play out of our outfield, we would have ended up being in the wild card game. It made that much of a difference. So Glad that they made the moves. You know, you can't keep on doing the same thing year in and year out and expect a different result. So they made some changes. Now they need to, the players need to step up and do their part. But I'm looking forward to spring training already. I know it's November 1st, but I've got that itch for the Florida sunshine and
wait till the fireside chats. They got to have some
but,
fireside chats.
There's a lot yet to come. You know, free agency hasn't fully taken effect, and there are starting pitchers that are being dangled on the trade block, and we'll see what the Pirates can do. They do have some tradable commodities. They have them in the minors. They've got them on the major league level. We've got depth, and we need to improve our pitching staff.
They ain't gonna do nothing.
That's what's on my mind tonight.
Thanks, Chip. Appreciate it. And Smoking Jim, what was that comment?
Well, they ain't gonna do nothing. They'll just continue to dangle.
And that's from our NFL Steeler scout, who's right into baseball when he can hear it on the radio in his travels. Thanks, Smoking Jim. Just another couple public announcements. Here's the Joey Fabus Childhood Cancer Foundation. Poor Joey died before his 9th birthday with DIPG. Donate money there. Check out their events that they have, even $1. The Joey Fabus Childhood Cancer Foundation. Check it out. They're around the whole area, and my prayers go to the family. Joey's favorite holiday was Halloween, so they were posting up a lot of stuff about that. So stay Joey strong. And the next thing, we have money in Bethel Park, the BPCF, Bethel Park Community Foundation. Dan Duff is the president. Go on there, grab an application. You can get from $100 to $5,000 for your group or organization with what you're going to do in the community. So check it out, bpcf.org. And they have a great fundraiser that's coming up, the Bethel Bounty at the Crown Plaza. And that'll be, I think it's on the 13th of November. So check that out too. All right, what's on my mind? What's on my mind is the baseball season could be over tonight. You got the Cubs and Cleveland tonight. They come out and won. You got Arrieta against Tomlin tonight. Arrieta's got plenty of sleep, did well the last time. Tomlin pitched a heck of a game. We'll see what happens there. But the baseball season, I've been watching this, watching Cleveland get ahead on this series, and they're ahead 3-2. They could close it out tonight. But it may go to a 7th game. We'll see what happens tonight. It'll be on after our show, and I plan on watching the game there, Chip.
I will as well.
It's been a great time for baseball. All right, let's go to our segments now. Fiction and Fact from Smoking Jim's Almanac.
Thanks, L. Levine, the talking machine. Before I get started, I'd just like to ask you baseball guys, what do you guys think about the Chicago Cubs getting screwed out of home field advantage because of this All-Star, whoever wants the All-Star?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, but my opinion about it is I think the team with the best record should have home field advantage. I think the fact that you're putting whoever gets home field advantage in the World Series on an exhibition game, I think it's laughable. I wish they would change it, but in a nutshell, that's how I feel.
I don't know if we can get you to agree with me on Pete Rose, but the fiction and fact from Smith.
Hey, I didn't answer the question.
Oh, my fault, L. Levine, the talking machine.
Come on,
my fault,
man.
buddy.
I've been against it from when they first did it. I thought it was one of the dumbest things that you could do, that let an all-star game determine who's the home team. That's a critical thing.
Well,
being a home team should be the best record.
Bud Selig panicked because they had an all-star game that ended up with a tie score. Well, guess what? It's an exhibition game. It doesn't matter. The game ends in a 2-2 tie, and you run out of pitchers. Okay, the game's over. Everybody enjoy your popcorn, go home, have a good night. You know, we'll see you next year.
I agree 100%. It's one of the dumbest things. They should go back to ignoring that result of the game and let the team with the best record.
And it may cost Chicago a world championship.
Actually,
No.
there's a theory right now. It helped them because the pressure in Chicago. Did you see the thousands of people every game day? Thousands.
Can I share one thing with you, Jim?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I know you're a stickler. You follow statistics. The Chicago Cubs record in World Series games played at Wrigley Field is 3 wins and 14 losses. So they don't really have a long history of success in Wrigley Field in World Series games.
When was the last game played ever in Wrigley Field?
1945.
No, the last game ever played in Wrigley Field. Isn't it no longer going to be?
No, it's
Vibrant.
It's a hysterical landmark.
I thought they were closing Wrigley Field. I thought they were
No.
That would be like them closing Fenway Park. The masses would rise up. They would.
You missed that. It must have slipped by you. They remodeled it.
I bought some tennis shoes off a brother out the trunk of his car, and he gave me some bad advice. So, okay, no more. I thought he told me.
What he give you 2 left shoes?
He's good on the shoes.
He doesn't know Wrigley.
Still had the tags on there, but he gave me some bad baseball info. But
I'm glad you ran with it.
If you talk to me or talk to Claudio.
I was getting ready to get to be in my article, man. I read on baseball.
You were going to write about it.
Last game at Wrigley Stadium, Wrigley Field. But anyhow, here's my fiction and fact from Smoking Jim's Almanac. I'm going to get started because it could be a little long. Hope I'm not stepping on your shoes, Chip, because I know you wanted to go over this.
My feet aren't in them right now.
But I always wanted to do it, so I'll just go over who I feel will be in the championship and who will win it. Central Catholic over North Allegheny in 6A. I got Thomas Jefferson, who's on fire, undefeated, playing South Fayette in the championship game with Thomas Jefferson making South Fayette quit under the pressure. Aliquippa versus Beaver Falls. I got Beaver Falls winning it all. Good karma.
Wow.
From Beaver Falls. They bring us out there every year to announce some games. So I think the karma will pay off.
Who'd you say Beaver Falls is going to
be? Beaver Falls versus Aliquippa, 3A. Now we go to the intramural leagues. They got to play an extra game, and their championship is at a stadium called Joe Walton Stadium. I might have a hard time finding that. But Steel Valley.
I'll leave you a trail of breadcrumbs.
Thank you. Steel Valley, I believe, will play Washington, Pennsylvania, Washington, PA. And even though we're in the meadows up of Washington, PA, I think this is the year for Steel Valley because of Paris Ford, who was on our show, Good Karma. Said yes, sir, no, sir, to Al Levine, the talking machine show, Good Manners.
Yes, he
Number
was.
1 defensive back in the country. Supposedly he's going to Pitt, but this is his 3rd high school in 4 years. So,
may travel around.
Yeah, like King Fourth said to his 5th wife, I won't keep you long. And Paris Ford may not stay at Pitt very long,
What
but
king
he's
said
going to
that?
go there. One of those kings. King James, King Fourth, King. And
Maybe it was Henry. Henry the
there
Fifth.
you go. The 5th.
Just trying to help out.
Thanks, brother.
Little history, folks. We get off the path here.
Now, and I got a little upset brewing. Clareton is 9-0, but Wade hurt his knee, got a kney operation.
Yep, had the meniscus repaired today.
They just cleaned it out a little bit.
Just like Ben.
So they probably took him to McKeesport Hospital. Clareton ain't got a hospital. They're going to play, in my
How's
opinion.
your fans in Clareton?
I'm not well liked in Clareton.
Just thought I'd bring that out.
I'm not a welcome child.
You got friends there. I see
there's
lots
a lot
of
of
friends.
blacks. There's a lot of blacks there. So
A lot of friends.
I hadn't noticed. I hadn't noticed.
Now, you started out in the first minute of this show with a couple race things. Now you followed now.
If you would have never told me, I would have never noticed, Jim. Thanks.
But I'm predicting in the lowest category, Class A or Class B, whatever they call it, Clareton is going to play 9-0 Rochester, I believe. And we had a Caleb Collins who's running wild for Rochester. I believe that Rochester will upset Clareton at some stadium called Joe Walton Stadium. We'll have to find that. I think I'll attend the game. And last but not least, great Pittsburgh Sports Line karma in Class 5A. I think West Allegheny 9-0, one of the best Class 5A teams I've ever seen in my life. I think West Allegheny will have to go the way that Armstrong, who will get knocked out this week, the same way that Upper St. Clair McKeesport's going to have to go on November 9th. The mighty powerhouse Gateway Gators goes to Heinz Field and knocks off West Allegheny to win the championship of 5A. That's my forecast. That's my prediction. And it's raining Gators, brother.
Wow.
And that's my fiction and fact from Smoking Jim's Almanac.
Thanks, Smoking Jim.
I didn't know that your diet was going to start on Friday because you're going to be broke as a joke.
He can't bet on those games. He can't bet. Tony won't take the money.
Macaroni Tony will take a bet.
He won't take those bets.
Yeah, he'll take them all. He'll take them all.
Not from Smoking Jim. Only the NFL and the college. Thanks, Smoking Jim.
You're welcome, sir.
Chip Hayner, let's go to trivia time.
Let's go to trivia time. Okay. Well, being that we are...
Can I say one more thing before we go?
Go
to
right
trivia?
ahead.
Last Saturday, I went to a football game in Upper St. Clair. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were calling the police on me because I tell you what, I drove up and down those streets. I've never seen so many beautiful homes in my life. You know, I started to walk up to the door and knock, see if I can see the inside, man. I mean, the Upper St. Clair, I don't know if it's like this in other places, but I've never seen homes so beautiful as Upper St. Clair. And I had a dream, if I didn't already have a house in Monroeville, I may put a little something down on a Section 8 there in Upper St. Clair.
You ain't going to find anything from Section 8, not in Upper St. Clair.
No, I think you might be remiss on that.
Yeah, you're not going to.
Thanks for the embellishments. We appreciate it.
Yep.
And I'm sure you didn't walk in anybody's yard.
Thanks for your pick. Thanks for your picks. I think Gateway.
We'll discuss that.
I think Gateway is a bit of a stretch, but you're a homer.
We'll discuss that in a few minutes.
We'll
go to these.
You're a homer. I think Gateway has about as much chance as North Hills does beating West Allegheny, but that's just my humble opinion. Let's get to some baseball trivia. I've always been enamored with pitching records, and I've got some information regarding the pitching records from the beginning of Major League Baseball and then from what they consider the live ball era. The dead ball era ended in 1919, and the live ball era was from 1920 to the present. But just to touch on a couple of things, 1951, on this date, November 1st, Brooklyn's Roy Campanella won the first of 3 National League MVP awards. The Dodgers catcher hit .325 with 32 home runs and 108 RBIs.
Wow.
November 1st, 1966, probably one of the greatest pitchers of all time, even though statistically there are others that have done better. But in the period of time when he was on his game, was basically an unhittable pitcher. Sandy Koufax of the Los Angeles Dodgers became the first 3-time winner of the Cy Young Award. This was the last year that there was only one selection from both leagues. So up until that time, after that, there was a National League and there was the American League. So
they watered it down, Smoking Jim.
Well, Sandy Koufax won it 3 times when there was only one award. And that truly shows you what kind of dominance that he had.
What year, brother?
1966. I was just a wee lad. In 1968, which was so referred to as the year of the pitcher, Detroit's Denny McLain, the last 30-game winner in Major League history, was the unanimous winner of the American Cy Young Award. And in 1978, Louisiana Lightning, Ron Guidry of the New York Yankees, was the unanimous winner of the American League Cy Young Award. He led the league in shutouts that year with 9 and ERA with a 1.79. Now, just to kind of give you, we know the way baseball is, and, if you've watched the World Series, you've seen pitchers pulled in the 4th inning.
Yeah.
And, I've always had a problem with the way pitchers are used. And I just want to go back through history and show you what the durability of some of the pitchers of the past had. And you would think with better athletes and better chemistry and everything else that goes into it that, you would be able to pitch more than 4 or 5 innings in a game. But the most wins in Major League history, Cy Young, 511. He also had the most losses, 316. The lowest ERA for a career, a gentleman named Ed Walsh at 1.82. Most no-hitters and most strikeouts. Nolan Ryan, 7 no-hitters, 5,714 strikeouts. The most shutouts in a career, Walter the Big Train Johnson with 110 shutouts. Most pickoffs in a career, Steve Carlton played for the St. Louis Cardinals and the Philadelphia Phillies.
Lefty.
With 144. Getting down here, most complete games pitched in a career, Cy Young with 749.
Wow.
I would beg to say that in the last 10 years in Major League Baseball, I don't think you've seen 749 complete games pitched. This is one man's career. That's most saves, Mariano Rivera, and most scoreless innings pitched, Oral Hershiser. He did it back in the mid-'80s. Pitching for the Dodgers, and they said that when he was on the mound, they called it oral surgery. The guy was an artist with the ball. Now, for the live ball era, from 1920 on, the player with the most wins was Warren Spahn with 363. Most losses were Nolan Ryan with 292. The lowest career earned run average was by Mariano Rivera. And here's the interesting thing about Mariano Rivera, is that he had one pitch. He threw a cutter, cut fastball, and that's all he needed. Nobody could hit his pitch, and he got the career saves with 652, with only one pitch and the lowest ERA for his career. Most shutouts since 1920, Warren Spahn with 63. Most innings pitched, Phil Niekro with 5,404.
Phil who?
Phil Niekro. Most complete games, again, Warren Spahn with 382. That goes for the career numbers. Now, here's some interesting numbers, and I'm going to wrap this up because we got a lot to talk about. We've got Pirates, we've got World Series, we've got Penguins. I mean, we got Steelers. I already talked about the Pirates.
Yeah, we already.
But the most wins in a major league season was by Old Hoss Radburn. He had 59 wins in 1884. The most losses were by John Coleman, 48 losses in 1883. The lowest ERA for a season was Tim O'Keefe in 1880 with a .086 ERA. Most strikeouts, 513 in a season.
Wow.
In a season. There's pitchers that have pitched their entire career that haven't. Most innings pitched, Will White, 680 innings pitched in one season. 1879, most complete games, Will White with 75.
That's amazing.
Complete game?
Complete games in one season. And also to go along with the most...
almost half their season because it was 154 games.
Right, exactly. Now, John Coleman has the record for most losses. He also has the record for most hits allowed in a season. Same season, 772, and the most earned runs allowed with 291. Now, for the live ball era, that was all dead ball era. For the live ball era, and then I'll wrap this up with one last little bit. The most wins in the live ball era is 31 in a season, and it happened in 1920. It happened in 1931, and it happened again in 1968. Jim Bagby in 1920, Jim Bagby Sr., Lefty Grove in 1931, Denny McLain 1968. Most losses were Paul Derringer, 27 losses in 1933. Most strikeouts in a season, 1973, Nolan Ryan, 383. Most shutouts, Bob Gibson, 13 shutouts in 1968.
Really?
And
How did he even lose a game that year?
Well, he had an ERA.
He had nine losses that year.
Yeah, they were all 1-0 games.
Yeah.
He lost. But, the interesting thing, in 1968, Denny McLain had won 31 games. Bob Gibson had 13 shutouts and had a was minuscule. That was the year that Major League Baseball decided to make a change in the game. And they lowered the height of the pitcher's mound because they felt that the pitchers had an unfair advantage. So they lowered the mound, and since then, the field is leveled up. Most innings pitched in one season, Mickey Lolich of the Detroit Tigers, 376 in 1971. Most hits allowed, 378 in 1923 by George Ewell. And Bobo Newsom, most earned runs allowed with 186. Now, tonight in Progressive Field in Cleveland, Game 6 of the World Series is being played. Josh Tomlin is going up against Jake Arrieta. Arrieta's been smacked around pretty good in the playoffs. He's not the Jake Arrieta of last year. And Josh
Tomlin.
Josh Tomlin has been quite the opposite. He's been very effective. He's only given up 3 earned runs in 15 and a third innings pitched, where Arrieta's given up 7 runs in 16 innings pitched. But the interesting thing about tonight is that in the history of Major League Baseball, and this dates all the way back to the beginning, the inception, there are 10 managers that have won 3 or more World Series championships. Tonight, New Brighton's own Terry Francona, manager of the Cleveland Indians,
What's the Pirates at?
if he wins the series tonight, he will become the 11th manager in Major League history to win 3 or more World Series.
Only 1 loss in all those World Series.
Yeah, so far he only has 1
One
loss.
loss in all those
Yeah.
World Series.
Yeah. So
no,
I'm
he got a
pulling for
second
Terry
one.
Francona.
He got a second one the other night.
I've stated this from the beginning. I am not a Chicago Cubs fan. I may be the lovable losers, but I love watching them lose. So I am rooting for the Tribe tonight. Go Tribe. I want to see them close it out in 6. And I want to see that look on the Cubs fans once again when they realize that 109 years and counting.
Can I ask you guys a question before we get into World Series?
It's 2 losses he has.
He has another loss? Oh, count tonight.
No, he lost the other night. That's why they're going to.
Oh,
Game
2
6.
losses. Yeah, where's my
You
math?
kept listening to when you heard the first game.
First, 2 losses.
Yeah, it's 2.
I wonder Chip
Just to
looked at
correct
me.
you.
Wonder Chip looked at me like I had a Halloween costume on. But hey,
Didn't you take it off?
I took mine off. Jim posted that one on Facebook.
let me ask you guys you baseball guys a question. Both of you guys are former pitchers. Why is there so many noodle arms today? Is it because of weightlifting? I mean, these guys pitched 75 complete games.
This is.
The girls in baseball can underhand it
Do
pretty
you
good.
remember
all
several
season
years
long?
ago? Remember several years ago when we were doing the show at Sips, and we interviewed Grant Jackson,
I remember
played for the
him.
Pirates.
Black man.
Well, I sat with him for about
Yeah,
a
he
half
is.
an hour before the show, and he and I had a really very nice conversation, and we talked about our love for the game of baseball and his passion for pitching, and what he felt to a large degree that the way I feel about pitching is that I don't think these pitchers pitch enough. What they players from the olden days when they'd throw 373 innings. You know what they did in between starts? They threw. I think what happens is that these arms aren't developed enough to withstand. I mean, 100 pitch count, that used to be 4 or 5 innings.
Noodle arms.
Guys would granted. Proper mechanics has everything to do with your longevity as a pitcher. Look at 2 of the pitchers with the best mechanics I ever saw was Tom Seaver and Nolan Ryan. And if you watch them and you watch their movements, they used a lot of their hips and their legs, and they didn't try to whip everything with their arm.
And they didn't weightlift.
Well, they didn't, but they threw. And they threw, and they threw, and they threw.
Weightlifting's hurting it.
And, what ends up happening is, they're snapping their arms, they're snapping the tendons because throwing is an unnatural motion for your rotator cuff.
Especially
It's-
overhand.
It's,
It's one of the worst
the
things
body
you
the
could
body
do.
was not designed to work that way. But, over time you
How
learn
about
how to
underhand?
That's why the girls do so well at underhand, and the boys too. The underhand pitchers, it's unreal. It's natural.
What's your philosophy, elevating the talking machine? Why these so many noodle arms? They used to
You
be
got to
able
throw more.
just like
I
Chip
agree.
said.
When I was a child, learning how to pitch, and when I started in Little League, we all saw the guys in the major leagues throwing curveballs and sliders and this. And our coaches did not allow us to throw any junk. They told us you just throw nothing but fastballs. They taught us to throw a 2 and a 4-seam fastball.
Curve is a junk?
Yes, it's an off-speed pitch.
Okay.
It's an off-speed pitch. And the reason behind that was they said you're too young, your muscles have not yet developed yet to the point where you could throw the off-speed pitches. So their idea was have us throw fastballs to strengthen our arms to get us to a point where, and someday down the road, that we'd be able to throw those pitches. It's just like, any kind of weight training program. You can't go into it the first day and expect to.
Well, in Monroeville, we were throwing junk right after T-ball.
That's why he didn't go far with it.
And how many major leaguers came out of Monroeville?
It's a football school.
Because they had to. They had to go into the weight room after that.
Yeah.
We got a problem here.
Yeah.
The arms are dead.
Houston, we have a problem.
Well, thanks for the trivia, Chip. Appreciate it.
Great job.
And Smoking Jim, thanks. Do you have any other questions?
No, I was just wondering that.
Okay. We'll keep watching baseball. I don't know how you're watching the World Series. That's the problem. Because you're driving all the time.
Radio, I love listening on the radio.
Do you? Okay. They miss some of those facts. Well, on location, we'll be at Hollywood Lanes this Monday coming up. And be there. We'll be there 7:30 to 8:30. Jeffrey Park's the owner of this multifaceted entertainment center. Check it out. We'll see you there. Can't wait for the show. Now let's go right into the high school games because you guys disagree on some stuff. This will be Chip and Jim Frazier going into this. Smoking Jim Frazier got his opinions based on facts that he won't reveal.
Highlighters don't lie. It's already highlighted.
It's already highlighted, But
Who's highlighter?
you look at what they've done with the classifications. They've gone to 6 classifications, and did they really make this better? I think really, you go right to the AAA, and you see, there's teams that are in the playoffs that have no business being there, and there's teams that are sitting on the outside looking in, and they're not playing. And the first team that comes to my mind is Beaver. Beaver 7-2, and they're sitting at home watching a team that's 5-4.
South Park.
Play in the playoffs, and how that ends up being right is absolutely beyond
Maybe
me.
Smoking Jim has an insight
Well,
with the intramurals.
Unfortunately, you and Chip are both correct, but what actually happened is Beaver played in probably the most competitive section ever in high school ball. You had Central Valley, who's absolutely loaded. You had Beaver Falls, who's absolutely loaded. Aliquippa and Beaver, all in there. And Swickley Academy was pretty good as well. This year they just got beat up too much. That's Claudio's daughter's school. She was in the band. And I got my inside from her.
Did you?
But
How'd that work out?
And that's what happened. You got teams beating each other out, and it comes down to the last game and point system.
Sure.
And I thought for sure Beaver was in, but you're right, Chip. They should.
Yeah,
have been in.
because it came down to 2 7-1 teams playing against each other in the final game of the season. You had Beaver Falls, 2 traditional rivals right next door.
One's in, one's
out.
out.
One's at the bottom of the hill, one's at the top of the hill, and so one gets in and one doesn't, and how they seed things is just it's a shame. It's almost like the National League Central Division. There's just so many good teams in that division. It's hard to win it every year.
Yeah.
Any year for that matter, huh?
It makes sense.
But who do you have some picks?
Well,
Or are you just picking on?
No.
Whoa!
I actually I was looking through here, and the South Fayette Thomas Jefferson matchup
That's gonna be
looks
good.
like that's going to be a good game, and I don't see anybody getting in the way of either one of those teams to not make it. Central Catholic and North Allegheny, they are number 1 and number 2. Central Catholic has been strong all year, and they're ranked in the top 5 in the state. whether or not they.
Number one recruiting team in the state, too.
Yeah, and West Allegheny. I do like West Allegheny in the 5A. I'm sorry, I don't think that. Bob Palco's team. I think they're primed and ready for another championship run. I'm interested to see how Gateway responds to Zane Duda because he ran all over them the last time they played.
For a half. They shut him down the second half.
Well, yeah, but he had, 250 yards in the first half?
He ended the game with 356 yards, but 0 points in the second half. And that second half performance may continue for 4 quarters this game.
Well, I hope you're right because nobody's done that yet. Certainly the Gateway didn't. If you got 356 on him, that was a hell of a half of work.
Yeah.
You get down into the lower classes, and it's interesting.
Intramural.
Yeah, it really is. It really is because you've got teams here with losing records, 4-5. Imani Christian 4-5. Here you got Riverview. They got a ticket to the playoffs. They were 3-6. Avella. Did they even have a team? They were 2-8. Did they not show up? What happened? Did the opponent's bus not make it to the game?
They got lost.
They played Clarence, right?
Yeah. So they figured, we'll get Lamont's knee scoped this week.
That'll be
we're going to hang 70 points on them by halftime, right?
Yeah.
That's just something else. And Steel Valley, I don't know. They've been strong all year. Washington's got a strong team. I don't know. Just don't know about those boys from down in Homestead.
Mm-hmm.
They might trip and fall over their own feet. But they had a strong team last year, and I guess they've matured to the point. I do like Aliquippa once again. They just seem to win every year. Mm-hmm. And the Beaver Falls team, they were strong. They beat. It's a shame that Darius Wise doesn't get a chance to play in the WPIAL playoffs. Is he a senior this year?
Senior.
He's a senior, so he finishes his high school career last week, and has to watch somebody else play in the playoffs. That's just
an early jump on basketball. He's a great basketball player.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he?
Well, he'll be starting.
Anything
else on high school guys?
No, that's they'll be interesting to see how things play out. We'll check back with you next week.
Well, just one last high school thing. I do see something here in high school that
what'd you find?
I may have to call my bookie on. Nobody bets out there but me. Fort Cherry is 8-1 this year, and they play Stowe Rocks, which they should defeat Stowe Rocks, and then they play Clairton. And the most interesting thing about Fort Cherry is Dick Haley went to Fort Cherry, won 0 championships. Marty Schottenheimer went to Fort Cherry, won 0 championships.
Marvin
Lewis went to Fort Cherry, won 0 championships. The first black player in Steeler history, Ray Kemp, and all his descendants went to Fort Cherry and they won 0 championships. And they've never won a championship before. And I don't think this will be the year that they win a championship. So
there you
go. Smoking Jim Frazier.
You're going to bet on them to not win, right?
Yeah.
There you have it. If you don't bet, don't start. If you do bet, don't listen to Smoking Jim tonight. We'll move on there. All right, you're hearing the things with Big Ben throwing the ball. Did an interview during the show saying his knee felt good and he'd like to do more.
Wow.
So Tomlin come out today saying that there's a chance Ben will play at the Ravens.
I say
it's good.
I would not rule Ben out. What will really be the test is they get him in there practicing with the first stringers tomorrow and let him go through a full practice and see how his knee feels Thursday, because he gets out there tomorrow and starts doing some of the things that he's going to have to do in the game, and you start getting some swelling, you got
to watch.
This game with the Ravens, yes, it's a divisional game, and it will keep us in first place in our division. But this is a game that, if there's any games that we can afford to lose, this would be it. I would not rush to get Ben back in there, but I guess you're going to have to protect Ben from himself. So
Well, Ben hasn't been practicing so far just with the scout team, right?
it's 7-on-7. They were doing 7-on-7s today. So he
He got a workout today.
So he got a workout yesterday. Today was an off
Yeah.
day because they had 4 days off.
The CBA.
And then they worked one, and then they need another day off because they're
Tuesdays in
because
the
they're professional
CBA.
athletes. You know how that is.
Well, that's because of the CBA.
Yeah.
Tuesdays are off.
But hey, can I just interrupt with 1 second? The
Go ahead.
college football playoff rankings have just been released for the very first time this year. Now the top
Tell
four,
us. Let's go.
the top 4 teams that are in that would be in the playoffs if the season
of now.
ended
I'd
right
like to
now
see Penn State
would
in
have
there.
Alabama, Clemson, Michigan, and Texas A&M took the 4th spot.
Wow.
Penn State is at number 12, and West
Okay.
Virginia dropped to number 20. And
Thanks, Chip.
but that was just released just within the last few minutes.
Boy,
Nice.
Narduzzi's probably having a fit when he see that. He's probably turning over tables, kicking.
There, we'll move the pit.
Well, you know
Did you
what?
watch
He can
the
get
big
as
game?
bad as well because you know what? Pitt has played 3 ranked teams this year and lost them all. Okay, when they played Penn State, they weren't ranked. So I mean, you want to get some recognition for your program. You gotta beat ranked teams.
You got to give Terry Smith credit for turning that Penn State program around. The assistant head coach down there at Penn State.
If you want, I'm
Thank
sure you want to give him the credit. So
Thank you.
set his way.
Franklin's been there too.
Assistant head coach.
But
Franklin's been there too.
so we've got Ravens week, and this is a big week for the Steelers. This is our
Let me
real.
ask you one question before you get into the Ravens. Who does everybody say you look like professionally?
Kevin Green.
Kevin Green. And right now you have as many sacks as everybody that plays right outside linebacker for the Steelers. Congratulations.
Zero.
Do you want to know something else, Jim?
Zero.
Now, it's interesting that you brought that up because my next thing was going to be this past Sunday. Cam's Crybabies ended up with 8 quarterback sacks in the game. That's the Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
Okay, because they got the whiny quarterback.
Uh-huh.
So the Carolina Panthers had as many sacks this past Sunday as the Steelers have had in their first 7 games.
Wow.
And when you just think about that for a hot minute, that's like
Here, I'll give you another tidbit to think about. Joey Porter come out and said at the beginning of the year
oh yeah,
that Jones and
Bud
whoever
Dupree
would have
Double digits.
double-digit sacks. Joey Porter stated that publicly and has stated it since. And look what they have. He's not coaching them up.
Wow, that's true.
well you can lead.
But he's doing a good job with his son. I forgot to mention his son had 3 touchdown catches for North Catholic this week. Joey Porter Jr. So he's doing a
As
good
I
job with his
point
son.
out again, he coaches the Steelers and has said Too Slow Jones will have double-digit sacks, and Dupree's not even in. So
No,
He could
Dupree.
be coaching his son next year, right? If he keeps going this way.
he can keep going, but the Steelers need that help.
So here the Steelers go into Ravens week. And Joe Flacco, I don't really consider him an elite quarterback, but he's good enough to make a few plays. He can keep the game close because the Ravens defense is always fairly stout. But, 400 yards rushing in the 2 weeks prior to this game this week. The Steelers they have to shut down the run. I mean, you cannot continue to let the other team dominate the time of possession and just grind the clock down, run the ball straight up and down the field. I mean,
Well, hopefully Cam will be back. Shazier maybe will play a couple more plays, so and then he can sit down again. No, we got some trouble there, but Big Ben will probably play the game. I would say he does.
And then Ladarius Green has finally made it to the practice field. There has been a Ladarius Green sighting.
Good.
But they have 21 days from I believe it was last Tuesday or last Wednesday, to determine what they're going to do with him. But from what I've heard Ramon Foster say and Ben say, they've been very impressed with his work ethic and his physical abilities on the field. if he can make it to the field and stay
We might
there.
see something.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what he could do because he would add a dimension to the Steelers' defense that they do not have. He would have that threat down the middle of the field that Heath Miller used to be. Because Jesse James just doesn't.
He'll catch some of the balls.
He'll catch some of the balls, but he's more of an outside threat. I don't see him as being the guy that wants to go, across the middle and go after those middle linebackers.
Well, he's not that good of a blocker. That's a simple. We've been spoiled with Heath, so nobody's blocks like Heath. So that's one of the problems. And as far as Ben hitting him, he's hit him a few times.
But we need big production out of Le'Veon Bell this week, and we need Antonio Brown to be focused and quit worried about mugging for the camera and just play.
Is he
And
healthy?
shoes.
Is he healthy? And
Yeah.
shoes.
And shoes.
Is he
Forget
healthy?
about the shoes.
Is he
You
healthy?
know what he needs to do? He needs to reestablish himself as the best wide receiver in football because as it stands today, he is not this year. Okay, he comes in with all the credentials for it, but hey, you know what? Prove it on the field.
You don't think he's having a good season?
I think he's having an okay season, but I expect a lot more out of somebody with his level of talent. See what he did the last 2 years? I mean, I was expecting 140, 150 catches this year. I was looking for him to break 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, coming up short of that, yeah, it's a disappointment. As far as I'm concerned, it's probably, a career achievement for most, but I mean, I expected bigger things out of him.
Well, we're only halfway there. We will see what happens with that. I think he could do it.
Well, you know what? It's all riding on the Steelers because you see what the Patriots did. They're in such a comfortable position that they traded a Pro Bowl linebacker to the Cleveland Browns for a conditional third-round pick because he was making noises that he wants $12 million a year because he's at the end of his contract. So you know what Belichick did? Like he always does. Okay, you're going to be a problem for me. I'm going to do what's best for my team. Bam, I got a third-round pick for you. And it'll be a high third-round pick because Cleveland's going to be on 16 this year.
Second round.
They'll have the first pick in the third round.
And
the
telling
second
you,
round.
Belichick is sly like a fox, He doesn't play games, and he's not going to let his players dictate to him how they're going to
We get
behave
somebody
on
else
his
to
team.
come in. He gets other people
Well,
to come in. The players are there. He has them.
Oh, he wouldn't have gotten rid of him, but I love his attitude. Players develop an attitude, and they go goodbye. That's it. We're not gonna deal with it. You know what? You're not bigger than the team. There's only one person that got to get out of jail free card. That's the quarterback.
Tom Brady.
And he's probably one of the hardest workers on that team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like Antonio Brown is here. Tom Brady is out there studying film, doing it all.
Well, the one thing that history will prove that Belichick wasn't a genius in Cleveland. Then again, he didn't have Tom Brady. Makes a difference.
Yeah.
Like you say, Smoking Jim, you need that quarterback. Then you need him to listen to you. Then you need him to have receivers. Then you need an offensive line.
Look, Ken Wisenhunt.
You need the whole package.
Ken Wisenhunt was an offensive wizard when he was coaching. What was his name? Kurt Warner. Took him to the Super Bowl. Yeah, he was an offensive genius. He lost his quarterback. He got fired from Arizona. He got fired from Tennessee. And it just goes to show you a quarterback can make an offensive coordinator look really, really good. Now, on Bruce Arians' hand, he worked with Ben, but look what he's done on his own. I mean, he's even
he's done it to others.
He's even taken a hack like Carson Palmer and turned him into a decent NFL quarterback, but is he going to get him over the hump?
Well, the greatest achievement in Bruce Arians' career, other than being the first white player at Virginia Tech to room with a black player, and that was Tiki Barber's father.
No, that's awesome.
So
that in itself is
that's
awesome.
interesting.
So that was good. But his most incredible thing was since Cleveland's come back, they made the playoffs one time, and that was with Bruce Arians. That's the offensive coordinator. So
yeah, he was.
And, they had no quarterback.
And I remember that game very well because they played the Pittsburgh Steelers in a snowstorm, and the Steelers came back from a pretty heavy deficit and beat them at Heinz Field. one of the most exciting games that I've ever been at Heinz Field.
I was there too.
I was sitting down on the 50-yard line, and we were getting snowed on, and we didn't care.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a great
Did
game.
you have your Halloween suit on?
Yeah, that was the third time we played
Bundled
Cleveland
up.
that year. We beat them 3 times that year.
Really?
Yep,
Wow.
we beat them twice in the regular season, and Tommy Maddox was the quarterback. Tommy gun offense.
I'm
Those were
surprised.
the days.
I'm surprised you're cheering for Cleveland now after you've been in Cleveland.
Well, you
native.
know what? I have always rooted against the Cleveland Browns,
Yeah.
and when I had my choices, this Cleveland Indians. See, the Cleveland Indians and the Pittsburgh Pirates were never really rivals because up until 10 years or
Yeah,
so
they just
ago,
didn't.
there was interleague play. What do we do? We play them once every 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
We never had a real rivalry with
Yeah.
them. And then of course I looked at Terry Francona being a local product, and then I looked at the Chicago Cubs. And my thing with the Chicago Cubs, I've probably been to 150 baseball games in the last 10 years or more. Okay, I talk to people from all over the United States down at PNC Park, and talk to them about where to go for entertainment, for good restaurants and stuff like that. The nicest people in the world I meet, the biggest jerks I've ever met, were from Chicago. Chicago
Oh, really?
Cub fans. Oh my God, they're obnoxious. They're like fingernails on a chalkboard. So I kind of take pleasure.
That's why I picked Cleveland.
And watching Chicago lose.
Well, I thought maybe you were a Cleveland fan because the Pirates copied the Cleveland Stadium to the T.
No, they didn't.
Cleveland don't get no credit for it. That stadium, Pirates copied that, the
They didn't.
blueprint, seat for seat, man.
Not even
Where
close.
do you come up with
Not
that?
even
Let's
close.
change this subject. We got
Nothing
2 minutes
could
to
be
go.
further from- 2 minutes to go, and you know what? Tomorrow night, Stanley Cup winning goalie Matt Murray plays his first game of the season for the Penguins.
Yeah.
We've got a 4-game swing here on the West Coast. We've got Anaheim, then we've got the Los Angeles Kings, then we're heading back up to San Jose.
One of the original 6.
You just learned something today.
Hey, look,
before
I
the
taught
show.
Jim something earlier this evening. And,
Just before the show.
And I'm happy to say that Jim actually pays attention sometimes when I talk to him.
Well, because he likes to use the race card in negativity. So he can't use the race card, but he could use negativity. So you just struck a chord.
So the Penguins, Sid's back, and he's playing again at a high level.
Yeah.
Now, if we can just keep Evgeny Malkin from
Out of the penalty box.
taking stupid penalties and putting his team in a bad position, I think we're going to be okay. But the team's doing well. Murray's going to get some time. And having 2 number-1 goaltenders is kind of a nice problem to have for a head coach. Who do I start tonight? You flip a coin. How can you go wrong? Both your goalies have won Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
Good point.
It's an interesting.
Nice problem to have.
Yes, but it may only last a year or less.
Well, you know what? Enjoy it while it lasts, folks.
I plan on doing that. Definitely. That sounds like a fun season. We'll see what happens. Smoking Jim, you got anything going on?
Sunday, I'll be hanging with the 1976 Fifth Avenue High School, right on the hill where you were born. So
Nice.
they'll be there for the City League Hall of Fame. Looking forward
And
to
that'll
it.
be where at?
It'll be at the John Hines History Center down in the Smallman Street.
That's a
Strip
great
District.
venue.
Can't
Great.
wait. Excited.
It's close to the convention center there.
Very
Parking.
excited.
Definitely. Well, have a great time.
Thank you, sir.
I know a bunch of the people. Tell them I said hello.
I definitely will.
Tell Bill Neal I wish I had the invite. We'll work on that another time. Thanks, Chip, for the show. Thanks, Smoking Jim. Thanks, Jeff on camera, back from the last 3 weeks. Devin Shea in the control room. I'm Al Levine, and please stay Joey strong.